Hi, Cody from HD Florida. Today we're going to take a ride on the XL 1200CX and the XL 1200X, otherwise known as the 48, and the Roadster. We've got a couple videos out there that already kind of go through some of the differences in these bikes. Josh will link them in the notes. I think first up is going to be the XL 1200CX. So one thing both bikes do have, the ignition switch is also, the run stop switch is the ignition switch as well. So handlebar controls on both. This will toggle through the trip, horn, high beam, low beam, flash to pass, left turn signal, right turn signal, four-way flashers, start button. Both motorcycles, ABS and security is an option. Both bikes that we're riding today do have ABS and security. One thing you'll notice on ABS bikes is you'll see the ABS light flash until the motorcycle's going approximately 6 miles an hour. So mid controls on the CX, which you'll know from my favorite video, is one of my most preferred ways to ride. Handlebar controls, slightly downward position. So as far as gauge layout, analog tack and digital speedo. It does have a gear indicator, so you can see, so I'd say after a couple miles down the road you probably know which gear you're in without it. So both the Iron and the Roadster, being 1200s, performance wise going to be extremely comparable. Very different tire and wheel sizes, so that's going to be one thing that really sets the two out. Roadster a little quicker, leaning into a corner, in and out. Dual disc brakes on the Roadster, very responsive. Inverted front end on the CX, a little more firm ride, I would say, than the Iron. The CX actually sits about 3 1/4 inches taller than the Iron does, which is very comfortable for me. I would say if you're much under, I don't know, probably 5'10" or so, the CX may feel a little bit tall. So seating position, leaned over just a little bit, but I still feel like I'm sitting, I'm not having to force myself up. Which that's especially nice as you get to, the more you sit up, especially if you don't have a fairing or a windshield in front of you, the faster you're going, the more it's going to feel like you got to kind of hold yourself on the motorcycle. Having a little bit of lean angle forward kind of helps crouch into that. Definitely helps fight the wind's urge to push you backwards. That's it for me, just a quick ride. We'll compare and contrast the two bikes when I jump on the 48, so we'll see you in a moment. All right, welcome back. We are on the 48 now. So a couple things before we start up and take off. So you noticed on the 1200CX had a analog tack, and then it had a digital readout speedo. No tack on the 48, just the analog speedo. Handlebar controls are the same. ABS light in a different spot, but still same function. It's going to flash until we get moving. So you notice handlebars are a little more up facing, crouched in a little bit. Foot controls, you notice they're out in front of me instead of up under me. All right, so big differences in the two. Obviously, most noticeable is going to be seat height, and then so tack readout's actually digital, so both bikes are completely flipped. So it shows gear indicator and then tack readout depending on which trip function you're in. So 48 sits 3 1/4 inches shorter than the Roadster. Feet are forward. This is this is a preferred riding position for the vast majority of people. I'd say, you know, if you can touch the ground flat-footed on this bike, you'll have no problem reaching the controls. That's always a question: are they too far forward? On the Sportster, I would say no. You know, this is actually a very comfortable forward control position. You know, you start getting into some of the soft tails, and then the old Dyna models. You know, the old Dynas with forward controls. Even for me, you know, I'm 34-inch inseam, and you know, still it felt like it was quite a reach to get to those controls. There's a lot of people that's really what they like. I like my feet to be, you know, more under me. I don't think there's a right or wrong in that. It's just personal preference. I think to give, you know, this riding position is what a lot of people that come to look at Harley-Davidson motorcycles are looking for. You know, stretched out a little bit. I would even say the Iron 1200 with the mini apes would be, or even if you could find a 48 special. I know some of you have asked about a 48 special video, and with it not being in current production, we don't have any around. I will tell you, if we should take one in trade at some point that's in relatively stock trim, I'll be happy to do a video showing the two. I mean, biggest difference is is definitely going to be the handlebars. Those mini apes are a very different sitting position on any bike compared to these low-rise bars. You know, but other than seat height and controls, the fuel tank size. So 48 runs a 2.2 gallon tank, and then the Roadster it's right at 3.5 gallons. So what that means on a 48 is that most of you are going to see the low fuel light kick on somewhere around 65 miles, and then on the Roadster, expect that to stretch to around 100. I'd say a lot of them vary, but you know, typically a gallon to like 0.8 of a gallon of fuel left once you hit the light. Heard a lot of varying, you know, and obviously, you know, how much gas ended up in the bike when it was filled up is going to dictate, you know, what your actual riding range is. But you know, I had a couple Sportsters, and you know, that was, you know, the 65 to 100 miles, depending on the size of the tank, was a pretty good riding range. Heard a lot of people, you know, question that and say, well, that's not very far. You know, if you're out for a full day, I mean, you know, ripping, that's a good, in most cases, that's probably a good hour. You're probably going to welcome, you know, jumping off the bike and stretching your legs a little bit. You know, this heat, I would definitely say staying hydrated is going to be, you know, something that you're looking forward to in the 60 to, you know, the 70 to 100 mile range. You know, obviously in the, you know, if you get up into the, you know, the soft tails and touring bikes, I mean, we do have some bikes in the family that, you know, they'll see upwards of 200 miles on the tank of fuel. As far as handling though, with having the, you know, 16-inch wheels front and rear, and the width of the tires being pretty similar, you know, these feel really, really solid. Straight down the road, I mean, it's not jumping around. You know, you'll notice that in some of the skinnier tires, they kind of bounce around a little bit in the groove. This one's super smooth. I mean, if you've ridden you know, an FL Softail or an older touring bike that's got similar size tires on it, you know, kind of a similar feel. I mean, obviously much smaller package, but still very, very stable. I would absolutely be able to ride this, you know, on the highway, no big deal. So hopefully we answered all your questions. If you have any other questions, drop them in and we'll do our best to answer them, and we'll see you next time.